Whether you keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs, these are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? This is Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
And I'm Rob, and I'm keeping it real.
And we're really getting close to the year mark.
I'm excited for it.
Doing these. We're 3 weeks away, and I'm pretty stoked.
I can't believe that we're almost in March already. 2021 has been a wild ride already.
Seriously. Oh my gosh.
I was like, there's no way that 2021 could be more insane than 2020. And look at us now.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So what's up, everybody? Just a reminder, if you're listening to this via just audio, you can check out this thing on video. That's
you can
right.
Look at my ugly mug.
Look at that.
Oh,
Look at that.
Yeah.
So we're on YouTube. You can head on over to my my YouTube account at Brassman Reptiles. There's a whole playlist called the Reptile Talk Podcast playlist, and you can check out a bunch of the previous episodes. I think going all the way back to episode 44
Something
or whatever
like that.
So that's right. So we're super happy that we get to do this. So today we're kind of piggybacking on this incredibly popular topic in the industry, and that is making your voice heard, joining USARK, becoming a member, donating,
whatever you can do to join the fight.
Exactly. So hopefully everybody that's watching and listening is already familiar with USARK, but it's been very evident through the last couple of weeks that we've been really pushing this hard, that some people had like no idea.
Yeah. So if you don't know what USARK is, USARK is the United States Association of Reptile Keepers, and they are an organization that stands up for our rights and keeps an eye on what's going on in DC with the legislature, and keeps an eye on what sort of laws are coming down the pipeline in the various states around the United States. So they are our watchdog to make sure that we know what's going on. When the Python ban was going on, they were the first to let us know. When the Tegu stuff was going on in South Carolina, they were pushing that to make sure that people understood what was going on. And they are our voice. They are the people who are out there every day fighting to make sure that if you like keeping reptiles, that you are able to do so, and that no overreaching laws happen. And they're doing their best, as best they can, to make sure that in the future people will be able to enjoy reptiles. So they are an incredibly important organization, and one that you should definitely be supporting. And there's lots of different ways that you can support them, through donations or through membership. But honestly, I think that the membership is one of the most important ways that you can support USARK.
Yeah, with the membership, you're not only supporting USARK financially, which can literally, I think the bronze membership is $40 for the year.
For the whole year.
For the whole year. This isn't a monthly recurring subscription fee. It's once a year. And you subscribe to the newsletter, which keeps you up to date on all of the legislation that pops up throughout the year, as well as other things that USARK is doing to just continue to promote responsible reptile keeping, show you like what Phil and his amazing team at USARK are doing behind the scenes to continue this positive advocacy for keeping reptiles. And it's incredibly important. Anybody who follows me on Instagram this past Saturday saw the incredibly aggressive rant that I went on.
It was a little bit
about it. It was a little aggressive, but one of the things that had frustrated me and kind of got me to that level was, I spoke with Phil shortly after seeing the Facebook alert for the Illinois proposal, which is incredibly detrimental. Literally would essentially become you couldn't transport any exotic animals anywhere in the state at all, unless you're taking them like to a vet.
Yikes.
And that would also spell the end for NARBC Tinley Park, which is ridiculous. you know, and for those who don't know, like Tinley Park NARBC is one of where some of the biggest auction numbers come in.
That financial donations that go to USARK,
right to USARK,
make sure that they have can pay for lawyers to fight these lawsuits that are going on.
Right. It's important to realize that as we're fighting these different things in states, there's also federal legislation that pops up, and having lawyers on retainer, especially federal lawyers,
it's expensive.
Not cheap.
It's very expensive.
You know. And we're not just talking about one or two lawyers. You know, when the federal python ban was happening, there was a team of 4 attorneys on that,
working every day.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah. So I mean, this is no small feat. So this is really, really important stuff. So we're going to touch on a few different aspects of this, but one of the big things that I want to mention, because it's come up in conversations that I've had with people before. You know, first of all, let's be real. We're still dealing with COVID and all of the COVID craziness. So, you know, getting, you know, sometimes even $40, depending on your situation, is actually difficult. Totally understandable. There is a $5 a month donation possibility for USARK, which is wonderful. There's also student memberships, which are $20. There's a whole slew of different financial options that you have, but at the bare minimum, if you're like, man, like financially, I'm really strapped, and like every penny I have is literally going to paying my bills and whatever, because you might be in that situation, and you know, given the times, of course, we understand that. The bare minimum that you can do is to literally share this information, get the information out there, and it's important that, you know, you're not just sharing it on your Instagram story or your Facebook page. You're literally taking the time and sending somebody a direct message and being like, hey, have you heard about this? Do you know about USARK? Are you supporting USARK? Because they're protecting our rights to keep reptiles. And you send it to literally everybody, like as many people as possible, people in your family, you know, and just be like, hey, look, even if they don't like reptiles, this is something that's really important to me. You know, can you please help? If you had everybody in your family donate $1, you could generate some kind of contribution, you know, to USARK. So there's never a solid excuse to not show some sort of effort in supporting USARK and doing everything that they're doing. Because while there might not be a post every day coming out from them, it doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means they're that freaking busy, you know. Since we did the live videos for Nerd on the Facebook and the Instagram and everything, talking about this, Kev's been like nonstop on the phone, talking with people like all over the country about what we need to be doing, both financially and getting, you know, rallying the troops, so to speak, to get ready for everything that's happening. Because it's been like once a week for the last couple of weeks, there's been a new proposed legislation brought to the table, which is horrifying. And we haven't seen this many pieces of legislation come at this speed ever. So it's really, really sketchy.
Yeah, you'd sometimes see one state pop up with something, and then maybe another couple months later, you'd see another state pop up with something. But in the last 3 weeks, we've seen several states pop up with, you know, proposed legislation that would either ban educational programs where animals, quote unquote, exotics would be present, or ban transportation of these animals, or ban specific types of animals. Alaska was talking about banning all of the salamanders that were listed on the Lacey Act. Like, what is that? What is Alaska worried about? Salamanders freeze. They do that. So it's literally just these groups and these organizations seeing reptile keepers as, or amphibian keepers or arachnid keepers as this pushover group that we're not going to stand up for ourselves. We don't have the numbers that cat and dog owners have, because if you say that you're going to come and take people's cats away, a lot of people are going to show up and be angry. And they think that if they say they're going to take some snakes away, less people are going to show up. And if we are not showing up, if we're not coming out in numbers, if we're not in the numbers of being members of USARK, they could theoretically say that, you know, we just don't have the support that they think we need for us to actually do something. And it's really sad because we could be showing up. We've come together to help each other in times of need. And the community has shown that we can come together, but we're so divided. People really will take any moment to just alienate one another from things. And I feel like USARK is this situation where we can come together to agree on one thing, and that's these lawyers helping us make it so that we can all still keep the animals that we love. And I still get people who push back and they're like, well, I don't want to join USARK. Or they're like, I donate, so why should I become a member? So here's the deal.
Most ridiculous thing.
Here's the deal. When we are talking about active members of a group or an organization, active members are important, because if you can come to a legislature and they're saying, okay, we're looking at banning federally, we're going to try and ban leopard geckos, and you don't have a group or any sort of people who, you know, are organized that care about leopard geckos, they're going to go, well, I guess a couple people showed up to the meeting, so it's not going to affect that many people. Let's just do it. If we have got a group like USARK that has 100,000 active members or 500,000 active members, estimates are between 2 and 6 million people keep reptiles in their homes in the United States. If we can't get 100,000 people to come together to just agree on this one thing, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Especially because the USARK, this group, wants to make sure that not just the members of USARK can keep their animals. They want to make sure that everyone can keep their animals and keep their reptiles and their arachnids and their amphibians and, you know, all your weird things. When a couple of years ago, when they were proposing the ban, which actually ended up passing because not enough people cared or spoke up, the ban on interstate transport of several Poecilotheria species, the ornamental tarantulas, that's tarantulas, that's not reptiles, that's not amphibians. USARK still showed up, they still sent lawyers, they still tried to make our voice heard, even though it wasn't reptiles. They still sent out alerts. They still notified people on Facebook. They still asked you to share their posts on social media. And not enough people stood together and said, we are not going to take this.
Yeah.
And so it passed. And so here's the deal. What the legislation, what they wanted to do was they wanted to ban the importation and interstate transport of several species of ornamental tarantula because they're protected where they come from. The thing is, ornamental tarantulas have not been imported into the United States in over a decade, probably longer. So all of the ones that were being propagated in the United States are from captive produced animals in the United States, from people raising animals, sending them to other people who have got these animals and breeding them together to continue the propagation of these species. Because without that is how these animals become extinct. That is how they will disappear. They will just vanish off the earth, off the planet. Because if we don't have people who care about breeding these animals, who know what they're doing, they will disappear. Look at crested geckos. Look at axolotls. Some of these animals that pretty much disappeared until people were breeding them in captivity.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. And the fact that we have people pushing back to say, well, I don't want to join USARK. Well, what are they going to do for me? And it's like, even just by you being there and saying, hey, I'm here, that does something. That does something.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an element of the people that give the pushback that in some cases are just like, I don't really want to get involved in anything like political or whatever. And it's like, dude, this is like, don't you enjoy keeping your animals? Like, that's literally what this is about. And exactly like Rob said, you know, just literally being there and being like, hey, I'm here and I don't support this.
Yep.
Like that, you're another body in the room, so to speak. You're another email in the inbox that's making these lawmakers and politicians be like, huh, okay, this was a bigger deal.
There are people who care. If people show up and people show that they care, then they have to listen to us.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I mean, this really is just important overall. And you know, I mean, the other thing that's important to note is while we're seeing more legislation happen now more so than ever, this is not something that is just randomly happening now. This massive wave is just happening now but USARK has been doing so much for the industry for many, many years. And it's also important to note that, when we did our live with Phil from USARK and Josh and Kevin and Carlos, Phil hit on something that was actually really important. And that is that these lawmakers, these elected officials, their job is to pass laws.
And to get reelected. That's all they care about.
Exactly. So when it comes time for that reelection, the constituents of that area are going to look and be like, well, what did they do? What did they do? What did that person do for us? The people. What did they do for the people? And so they're going to be like, oh, look, I passed this law to help save the ecosystem from dangerous invasive species of reptiles. And this helps public safety, and it helps this and it helps that. And, that'll get some people to be like, huh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. And, they'll spin it as like, we're helping tourism. We want to keep all this stuff open and blah, 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 blah. And we can't do that if these animals are running rampant. So I mean, it's their job to be passing laws. Our job as the public is to be like, hey, whoa, that ain't right.
Yeah,
that one ain't right. If you support something they want to pass, cool, support it. But if you don't, you also need to make that heard.
Yeah.
So it's important to recognize that. And one of the frustrating things, especially here on the East Coast, especially in the Northeast, we've been around the longest.
Yeah.
So the laws have been getting passed here a lot. So the West Coast, when they pass things, it's really like, oh my God, but the East Coast has been like, yeah, well, welcome to what we had to deal with, just because there's already been so many things on the books. So I talked about this on my my Instagram live, because more often than not, when we hear about these things, it's people trying to push something to remove us from being able to keep certain things. And I do want to be able to make a point to shout out the New England Herpetological Society and Kurt Schatzel for the work that they did back in 2014 with the relationship they had with Mass Fish and Wildlife to do the opposite, to have the law changed for the better, allowing keepers to be able to own more species.
It's like one of the first times that's happened in the US.
Like ever. Yeah. So in Massachusetts, years ago, you couldn't own chameleons, green trees, emerald tree boas, frill dragons, like a whole bunch of stuff without permits. And in I think 2014, that changed. So you can now keep chameleons, you can keep emerald tree boas and green trees and ackies and frill dragons and stuff without a permit, which is wonderful. And I think it is literally the only time in the country that's ever happened.
The only time I can think of. Well, Maine also did a little bit more on their most recent revision. Mm-hmm. They went from not being able to have any tarantulas, so now they can have 3 species of tarantulas. Ooh, and then they did make all geckos legal and all skinks legal, which was good, because before then they had like 5 species, and if you wanted a gecko, they were like, yeah, no, it wasn't on our cool list, so you can not keep that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what? It's a gecko.
Yep.
Yeah, but Maine did. I mean, Maine still got a long way to go, but they did change. But I think it was right after Massachusetts did theirs.
Yeah. And that's another thing to note too is, one of the biggest reasons why these are all massive issues. It's not just an issue because, we want the keepers in that state to continue to have their rights to own whatever animals they enjoy, but especially surrounding states to any of those states with proposed legislation, they're all watching. Like, oh, well, they've got this ban on these things, and they're talking about it could affect, tourism, and it could affect the ecosystem and whatever. We should keep an eye on that, because if it happened over there, we're right next door, so that could actually play a big role. And so states like Florida play such a massive role in everything that happens in the industry. Florida is a major hub for the entire industry in the US.
Yeah.
So the Florida thing is,
when we were trying to fight the regulations in Maine, they literally cited Florida as a point of reference, because we were trying to get them to make a blacklist instead of a whitelist. So Maine before had a list of okay species, and if it wasn't on that list of species that we already pre-approved, then it's illegal. So like my tiger rat snakes were illegal. There was like certain gecko species I kept that were illegal there, and like lots and lots and lots of stuff was illegal. And we proposed a change to that to make it so, okay, if you you don't want potentially dangerous venomous snakes, okay, make those on a permit system. It's a very strict process for you to get it, just like in Florida. We are going to large lizards that might require you to do make a room or some large custom enclosure for them, make it so you got to get a permit for them. And very rational stuff that we thought was very common sense. There's no reason you should ban any type of chameleon. There's no reason you should ban any type of gecko,
Right.
any of that stuff. I mean, if it's federally restricted, like Komodo dragons or something, obviously, then that's already federally handled, so we don't have to worry about that. But we should have some common sense laws. And when we went to the legislature, they were like, well, you guys have proposed a lot of additions, and we are very concerned because Florida has a problem with giant snakes there, and we're worried that it's going to happen in Maine. If it can happen in Florida, global warming, it can happen in Maine. And I was just like, did you just go on record and say that publicly? Because if Maine is ever the climate of Florida, the entire eastern seaboard is going to be underwater.
Screwed.
Yeah. We're going to have bigger problems to fry than people with some geckos and some snakes, okay?
Yeah.
There's going to be much
true.
bigger problems for our planet than a couple snakes or a couple tarantulas.
Yeah. It is very true. And a thing that I've spoke about too is it's important to learn as we talk about, well, a lot of these things there's no science behind it, or whatever. So we are trying to fight the science. Here's the problem. If you're talking to your fish and wildlife officer or whatever, they might kind of understand the science aspect because they like animals, and that's kind of generally why they kind of get involved in fish and wildlife and whatever. That's all well and good, and establishing that connection is all well and good. However, when it comes time to being in the courtroom or being in the committee hearing, those people generally don't care because they've been given all this falsified, regurgitated nonsense info that's like, it's going to affect tourism, it's going to do this is going to be bad for your economy, it's going to blah, 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 all these things. And they're all like, oh, well, we can't have that. And they give them some fudged numbers and some tweaked maps, and they're like, look at this explains whatever. And like, oh my God, that's terrible. So when you have to fight that, you're fighting a lot of miseducation and misinformation that's been fed to these people. And I think Kevin said it probably best. By the time we actually get to have these public comments, there's already a tree that has grown of falsified information. We don't ever get to it when it's a seed or a sapling. We get it when it's a full 20-year-old tree, and we got to start hitting it with an axe to get it knocked down. So we already have the odds stacked against us by the time these hearings happen, because there's been all this time for all this nonsense communication and BS really to just keep going and going and going and going and going until it has gotten to that point to get a hearing. So one of the things that I think is important, especially like we did our resource episode on, herp societies and community.
Yeah.
And if you have a wildlife a herp society, utilize that to be able to reach out to your fish and wildlife. Have that person in charge maybe like extend that olive branch or invite fish and wildlife officers to a meeting and be like, hey, we've got a bunch of people that we meet once a month. We love these reptiles and blah, 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 blah. We have guest speakers, and we've got, like
we do education,
smart people doing education and outreach. And, I've talked about, like, if you're one of those people that, is hardcore in the education scene, reach out to Fish and Wildlife and be like, hey, you know what? This is what I do. This is who I am. This is what I do. I teach people about these cool animals. I go to schools. I go do this and whatever. I'm willing to do a free program for fish and wildlife officers once a year to get, some hands-on time with some of these animals that, at some point you might end up coming across for one reason or another. Either you have to go to somebody's house for one reason or another and they have a big pet snake or whatever, like these kind of things, not really extending the olive branch, but just extending that hand of friendship, so to speak, to be like, hey, you know what? We don't have to be enemies in this situation. I can help you better understand this. Maybe you can educate me on some of the laws that are not very easy to find, because that's another thing too, is like
not every state's laws are easy to find.
No, I remember when I first was trying to find out the regs and mass, like I remember having to like dig for a little bit, and then you finally find the right chapter of the right legislation under the right subsection under this MGL and blah blah blah.
Of really poor verbiage. And
yeah, exactly. If you don't understand political jargon, woo,
yeah,
you're screwed.
It's a pain in the butt. There are some websites though that will send you links to your exotic laws or regarding reptiles and stuff like that. If you search, my state, whatever state, and exotic reptile laws or reptile regulations, sometimes you can get to it, but a lot of times they make it a little bit difficult to find, which is kind of a pain in the butt, because you want to follow the law. The average person is not looking to break their state's laws or to become a criminal, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
But not knowing, you could very easily do that. New Hampshire has very little laws on what reptiles you can own. But Massachusetts and Maine and Vermont and Connecticut, all the states that border it have got horrible laws.
Yeah.
So you could very easily, take the trip over the border, pick up something that you saw at a pet store and not realize that the animal that you just bought was illegal. That's what happened to me. My first pet reptile was a chameleon, and I had no idea that it was illegal. I had gone to visit family in Connecticut, and they're perfectly legal to own in Connecticut. We went to a pet store, picked it up, brought it home, set it up. We had it for years without, it being a problem. And before I even knew that it was illegal. And then, come bring it to the vet one day, and the vet's like, hey, just so you know, this thing's illegal. You're not supposed to have this. And, we had no idea, because, it's the average kid is probably not up on their local regulations.
Yeah. Think about what 8-year-old knows how many species of animals are illegal to keep in their state.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. So this is
I didn't have the internet back then, so
there was a problem.
No way for me to know.
Also a big problem.
Not a clue.
You know what I mean? In some states you get kind of lucky. Like I know in North Carolina, there's a very easy to access website with all of the counties. So North Carolina has no statewide regulation on animals. It's all county based, which is kind of nice.
Interesting.
But there's a website with a literal list of all the counties, and it will tell you if they have any ordinances or regulations on it, and it'll say yes, what is it for, and then there's a link that will take you right to that county's website, and you can read all about that. Like, that is wonderful, a wonderful tool. It's important that we educate ourselves as much as possible on this stuff, because it's not going to stop. That's just the sad truth. Like we said at the beginning of this, we've never seen this much proposed legislation come at us this quickly.
Yeah.
In forever, as the amount of times we've been dealing with this, it really is ridiculous.
Yeah. And if we are not standing together, it is just going to get worse. It is just going to get worse, because when we don't show up, they go, okay, no one cares, so we can just do this. And then the next time they go, oh, well, we took off these things, so people didn't care about those, so let's take the next 10. Let's take the next 30. Let's take this whole genus out. Let's get rid of this. And if people are not standing up and saying, hey, we're watching what you're doing and we don't agree with it, they're just going to keep going. Because here's the deal. Animal rights people, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but they have got a real clean cut. And what they are doing is they're sending their best and brightest to go sit in on these political hearings and say, we care. Those guys don't care. They don't care about the animals, and trying to make us out to be these villains, when I don't know anyone who keeps reptiles who doesn't care about like, what would be the point of keeping them if you didn't care about them?
Yeah.
What is the point then? Come on. It's it doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. It's also important to recognize too that, because there's been a lot of people that have been like, oh, well, let's reach out to like zoos, and zoos keep, a lot of this stuff too and whatever.
I don't want to badmouth zoos, but they also don't always support the private sector, even though the private sector has done so much for captive reproduction and conservation of species. Come on.
Exactly. You have to think about like, there's that person that really likes that niche species of rare colubrid or whatever, and it's all they work with. So they're super hyper focused on it versus, a zookeeper that's got to take care of, 20 different massive enclosures of all different species.
And when they need space, they might shuffle them to another zoo and all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So there are elements to the private sector that kind of trump zoos when it comes down to it. But there's a long history of zoos not being by our side in the private sector, starting as far back as Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
The original, if I remember the story correctly, the original Daytona show came about, and there was supposed to be some intermingling of zoos and the private sector, and they all did this big vote about it, and everybody was gung-ho, and then the zoo world basically was like, yeah, we don't want to associate with you guys, and totally like backed out. And I'm totally paraphrasing that from Brian Barczyk, but I mean, like, that's ridiculous, so there is a long history of zoos not really being all that supportive of the private sector. So this really is on us, to make sure that we're on our shit. Really.
And we're not saying, don't go to zoos. I love going to the zoo. Yes. I love going to the aquariums. I love checking out reptile houses at different zoos. Zoos do a lot for conservation. Right. But they can't do everything. They can't. If you haven't read it yet, you need to find a copy and pick up the book, The Invisible Ark.
Oh, yeah.
Dave and Tracy Barker. In defense of captive reproduction of reptiles. It is an important book about how we as a community are helping save species from extinction. And you really, really, really need to check it out. If you haven't got a chance to check it out, it's very important. I think everyone should have a copy. If you can get your hands on it, do it. Check it out.
Amazon is probably available on Amazon.
Yes, it's called The Invisible Ark, and you need to read it. I think that if you've got reptiles, it's one of the most important books that you can get. If you're in, this hobby in any sort of a breeding capacity, even if you're just curious about breeding or curious about the animals that we work with, it's an incredibly important read for people.
Yeah, most definitely. And if you've made it this far in the video, I want to just encourage you that if you haven't already checked out USARK's website, the link is in the description of this video. It's in the description of the audio. If you're just listening to the audio, you can go right to USARK's website. The homepage has all of the action alerts for everything that is going on, from Illinois to Alaska, to Florida to New York, including some federal things that are going on as well. And, again, cannot give a big enough shout out to Phil Goss and the entire team over at USARK for everything that they're doing.
Yeah, USARK, when they send out their alerts through email and when they post about it on their social media, they just got an Instagram, which is USARK_official on Instagram. Check them out, give them a follow. And they post on Facebook under USARK, United States Association of Reptile Keepers. They do basically a Cliff Notes version of what's going on with the regulation. So it takes a lot of that political jargon out and they give it to you in plain language. This is what this law is trying to do. This is why we need to stand up to it. These are the people that you can contact to voice your opinion, to let them know that you can't do this, that you don't want them to do this. Yeah. This is the general outline of what is going on. So that's one of the main reasons why it's so important to support USARK. They are breaking down these regulations and giving it to us in plain terms that are easy to understand for the average person, right. and making it accessible to people, because when it's in a meeting, in a hearing, and in the Capitol building, you're probably not going to hear about it. It's probably never going to make it to your local paper. It's probably never going to make it to a federal paper, but it's going to pass. And so USARK has been in those courtrooms, in those rooms for these hearings, and say, as a voice for the reptile hobby, saying, hey, we are watching what's going on, and we've got people who don't agree with this.
Yep.
This can't pass, which is one of the main reasons why it's so important to become a member, not just to donate, because donating does help. But if we can show that we've got a robust, active community, it will prove to these politicians that we've got people who care.
Exactly.
And I had posted on my Facebook, this is a little bit controversial, but I had posted on my Facebook a little that I think that if you vend a reptile expo, you should have to have a USARK membership, and that show promoters and people who run the shows, I think that they should start turning away vendors who are not members of USARK, even at the $20 or $40 level. Think about $40 over 1 year. That's like $3.33 per month. So if you attend an expo every other month, I know COVID has messed up everything, but before COVID, we were having a Manchester Reptile Expo, our local expo, every other month. So $6.66 per expo. You can't spare that to make your attendance seen and make your voice heard, to amplify that voice of our hobby. And I got a lot of people who pushed back, and they said, oh, well, we can't force people to become members of USARK. We can't force people and alienate people. I don't think it's alienation. You don't have to vend at a reptile expo. There are thousands of people who never vend an expo. They sell online. Morph Market's not going to alienate you. King Snake's not going to alienate you. Fauna Classifieds is not going to alienate you. Craigslist isn't going to ban you. This is in-person reptile expos. This is people who show up, bring their animals that they produced or that they purchased for to distribute. These are people who say that they care about this hobby. That is what they're telling you. And then I got people who are like, well, we can't alienate people like that. Why? It's not alienating people, because if these people actually care about the hobby, if they actually care about our ability to, and their ability, not just my ability, but their ability to do this thing that they enjoy, if they care about that, why are they so resistant to send $40 to say, hey, I'm here?
Yep.
What is that? I really don't understand that. I don't understand the pushback. And people will say, well, you can't alienate people like that. It's illegal. It's not illegal. The people who run the shows, that's their business.
Yeah.
They can choose who to take money from and who to support. You put your money where your mouth is. If the vendors and the show promoters, if they say, hey, look, this is an expo that believes that we should support each other, we should support the people who keep reptiles, not just the person coming through the door or the person who might be buying something, but the vendors too. They should put their money where their mouth is. That's all. That's what it is for me. And there's not, I have yet to see a convincing argument of why not.
Yep.
I've yet to see a convincing argument of why we shouldn't do that. Yeah, we can't force people to do that. Don't force people. But what I'm saying is, if I was a show promoter, that is my first email that's going out before the next expo. At this Manchester Expo, I'm going to talk to our show promoter, and I already shot him a comment on Facebook and got a like back from them saying that I want you to talk to the vendors, every single vendor, when they sign up, and ask them if they're a member of USARK, because they should be putting their money where their mouth is. And if you stand to make $500, $1,000. I know some people who I've vended expos before and walked away with $10,000 from a reptile expo. And you're telling me that I can't throw a $40 membership on USARK just to say, hey, I'm here. I care about these animals. I don't want laws to pass to ban these animals. You're telling me that someone who's standing to make $1,000 or more at a reptile expo can't do that? What is that? Why? Why can't they? What is the reasoning behind that? Send all your hate mail to Instagram.com/RobIsCreepingItReal, because I want to hear. I really want to hear. I'm very curious, because I saw some people on Facebook who tried, and they were like, they didn't tag me in it, but they should have, because don't be a little, talk to me.
Don't be a bitch.
Yeah, don't be a bitch. Come on. If you got a problem with me, say it. I'm Rob. I'm creeping it real, man. Right now, I'm creeping it real. If
I thought I was supposed to be the intense one.
Dude, this had me all riled up because I saw 3 people post about it, and they basically quoted my thing saying that vendors and the show promoters should make sure that every single vendor has got a USARK membership, and they should turn away people who are not members of USARK. And they're like, well, we can't do that, but they didn't tag me in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, if you stand to make financial gain from selling reptiles, there is no reason you shouldn't put your money where your mouth is and donate $40. There's other memberships. There's $250 memberships. There's $1,000 memberships. I'm not saying that every person who vends has to donate $1,000. That's ridiculous. If you can, you should do it. But I'm not saying that. $40 over 1 year, $3.33 a month. If you cannot spare less than a cup of coffee to say, I'm here, I keep reptiles, I care about this, but you're making money off the reptiles that you're selling and you're keeping and you're breeding, you are the biggest hypocrite in this hobby. And I get it. We're all hypocrites in some way. I get that. But to say that you're not going to support this organization that cares about all the people in the hobby, not just the big snake people, not just the tegu people, not just the axolotl keepers, but everyone in the hobby? Come on, what is that? What is that?
No, that's 100% a real thing, and I kind of went off a little bit during my time in North Carolina after being at a Repticon show and made a post and have I'm working on getting some stuff together to send out an email to the guys that run it, and basically, you know, I was frustrated looking at the Repticon Facebook page that has over 124,000 likes on it, and they had shared one thing a couple days prior to my being there about USARK, one of their posts, and then it was almost a month prior to that they made a post about something, and then a couple weeks prior to that they posted something. So it's really random, whatever, and those posts had less than 20 likes, no comments, maybe 1 share.
Yeah.
But they have 124,000 likes on their Facebook. Now I understand if it's a business page, the algorithms and blah, 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 blah. Of course, that's a thing. But you boost your posts for your shows. Yeah. So people see about your shows. And, you know, for us up here, Manchester is like the only show that's happening.
Yeah.
White Plains isn't happening. Long Island isn't happening. Like, it's not happening.
Down,
yeah. But, you know, I'm watching Repticon. You know, I've been at Repticon Atlanta and Repticon in Asheville. And, you know, I'm watching Repticons are able to happen in all these other states that have a little more laxed regulations when it comes to everything that's going on, which great. I'm happy that the shows are able to exist. But damn it, if you're just going to think that you can skate by without doing a little extra to help kind of cover what's not able to happen because of this pandemic, you have a whole other world coming at you, because like you're doing all these shows, all these different states. Some of these states have these proposed bits of legislation, and we're not even saying anything about it. So my challenge was to boost those Facebook posts, to talk to have every vendor have something on their booth about USARK, even if it's a freaking bumper sticker with a little scan QR code for people to, you know, be like, scan this to join USARK, and people be like, oh, what's that? You know, something. And then the biggest and I think most important challenge was take 10% of your net profit from the show, from doing the show. So make sure your expenses are covered, but then from your table sales, from your entry fees, take 10% of that, immediately shave it off the top and send it to USARK. 10%. And be like, well, you know, show numbers are down and blah, 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 blah. What happens when there's no show?
Because they're banned, because the laws passed that you can't exhibit animals like they're talking about doing in Illinois. NARBC Tinley will be done. If that law passes, you will not be able to bring reptiles into that state to show them for educational purposes. Tinley is toast, gone.
So it's really important to recognize the seriousness of this, and everything that surrounds it. I mean, like it might sound like a lot in certain contexts. We're talking about like the shows. We're asking a lot of the shows. And it's like we are, because that's literally for a lot of these people, right? Unless you're a pet store owner. When you go to that Reptile Expo, that's your chance to be one-on-one with your clientele, with your customer base, with new people coming into the industry, right? Who typically, let's be real, a lot of these shows, except for like the really hardcore ones, most of these shows, a lot of it is the first-time reptile keeper.
Or people who have like 1 or 2 reptiles.
Yeah. Or people who have none. And they're thinking like, oh, this seemed like some cool thing, to go out to do with my family, whatever, look at something. And then who knows, they might come home with a pet. But that person that just went to that reptile show or just bought their very first leopard gecko from a Petco or a local mom and pop shop, they don't know jack shit about what's going on. And unbeknownst to them, this new little animal that they just brought home in, whatever amount of time could suddenly be gone. And they could be like, oh no, what do you mean I can't own this animal anymore? I just got it. And I love it. It's a great thing. Like we're missing the point. And this is one of the things that I went off on my Saturday live stream. We have spent so much time glorifying the drama and the division of things in the industry, and all the shares. I think about all the shares, the likes, the comments, watching threads of hundreds of comments over some minuscule BS. Minuscule BS. And then a post from USARK comes out, and it takes days. It takes days to get 20 shares. Days. When it literally takes 3 hours for something to get blown up all over the internet. And that, I think, is absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit.
Yeah. People gravitate to that negativity. And when they see someone say something shitty, they screenshot it, they repost it, and then boom, share, all these people. And then when you've got this thing going, holy crap, Illinois is looking to ban the showing of reptiles. A couple of little things.
Yeah.
New York's looking to ban shipments, all movement of animals through their state. Whatever. But because it's not that social aspect of it, people just ignore it. And it's like, you do realize that this has a bigger implication than what some random dude who breeds ball pythons said. Like, I'm not diminishing that all that situation was crappy, but come on. What USARK is doing affects way more people.
So much larger picture.
One person's crappy opinion. Come on.
Yep. It's amazing how quickly we get distracted, and that's going to be our downfall. And the immediate jump to the division of, oh well, we shouldn't do this, we should be doing this, and we shouldn't do that, and anybody who thinks about this is a piece of shit, and blah 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 blah. I'm going to do it this way. Like, oh my God. Can't we all need to understand, like, we can all understand the bigger picture, but we're not willing to be like, okay, you know what, I might not agree with you on this, but for the time being, I'm going to be right here and we're going to friggin' fight this together. I don't have to agree with everything you say.
Yeah.
I don't. Point blank, period. I've had people for years that have said stuff about me and whatever. I don't really give a shit. I don't really give a shit. Most of the people aren't even around anymore. But if you're still around, welcome. Welcome to the fight, because we're all in it together, motherfucker.
Yeah.
We're all in it together. And it doesn't matter. Any bullshit, nonsense, somebody's got a beef with somebody else that makes no sense, whatever. At the end of the day, I don't really care about any of that, because what I care about is being able to keep these animals
that I care about,
that you care about, that a lot of people care about. So whatever BS nonsense, freaking get rid of it, brush it aside, and realize, like, hey, you know what? You're kind of a douche, but we got to do this real quick.
The thing that I want, the reason why I was harping on the shows so much is that a lot of people go to reptile expos that are not in the reptile community. They're not tied in with all these people. They're not watching Nerd's YouTube channel. They're not watching Chandler's Wildlife. They've got a bearded dragon. They think it's cool. They go to the Reptile Expo to get their feeders, and that's it. So they don't know what is going on with USARK.
Right.
They don't know what is going on that federal level, on that state level. They don't know that these bans are being proposed. They have no idea. And if we're not out there putting it in their face going, hey, look at this. Look at USARK. Look at what they're doing. Look at this alert for what's going on in your state. And they're going to go, wait, in my state? Yeah, in your state. Because guess what? They're probably not friends with me on Facebook. I'm just friends with a bunch of people who already keep reptiles, who already know what's going on. They're the person who's got a pet bearded dragon, or they got a ball python, and they go to the Reptile Expo to pick up their feeders for, a couple weeks or for a couple months. When I kept, a couple snakes, I would go there and pick up 6 months worth of feeders. So I didn't have to go to the pet store and do it.
Yep.
Or some families that just go to the expo just to look around. And if we reach out to those people, it's not just us in this giant echo chamber of being like, yeah, I support USARK. Yeah, I support USARK. Yeah, me too. And all these people who all agree with each other. It's all these people who have never heard of USARK. All the people who have never heard that they're passing laws against ball pythons, or that they're banning tegus, or that they're talking about banning leopard geckos, which I've heard is coming in the pipeline. Let that just sink in there for a little bit, because it's not a big scary snake. I mean, they already banned the importation of over 201 species of salamanders and newts. But we need to be present. We need to be focused. We need to come together. We need to reach out to the people who might not be in our close circle. If you know someone who's got a pet snake, reach out to them. If you know a family that's got a leopard gecko, reach out to them. If you do educational programs, reach out to your local schools. See if you can get a little bit of their time just to talk to each classroom, because that is where the change can start.
Exactly.
It's, it is great for NARBC shows to do auctions and raise all that money. I think they raised over $150,000 at the last Tinley Expo for USARK. That's huge.
Yep. If there's one thing that I can say is when it comes to recognizing the importance of raising money for situations that are worth it, the industry has shown many, many times that it will put its money where its mouth is
when they need to. And
right now we're literally saying, like, we need to, but we can't all rely on the Kevin McCurleys, the Bells, the Barchecks, the this person's, the that person's that have a long-standing history, and they are surviving off of reptiles and this entire hobby. We can't just rely on them. We can't give that burden just to them. This is a burden that we all have to deal with.
And here's the deal. A lot of people look at us and they're like, well, you guys aren't doing enough. And, we're doing a lot. We are doing a lot. We are doing live streams. We're donating money. We just bought banners to go up at our booth at Manchester Reptile Expo with QR codes. We got stickers that we'll be handing out for people to join USARK. We are doing a lot. But here's the main thing. Kevin and Nerd have an established relationship with the state of New Hampshire. Big places like Brian Barcheck's place have an established place with their state, an established relationship with their state. If these laws pass, they are going to be the least affected by them, because they already have got that in with the state. Kevin's the only person who's got a permit for venomous snakes in the state of New Hampshire. If they ban venomous snakes for everyone else tomorrow, if they go, okay, they're no longer a permitted species, they're now done, that's it, he's still going to be able to have his. Everyone else isn't going to be able to, but since he's got his establishment there, he's got it. So he's not doing this to be selfish. He's not doing it for him, because people are going, oh, well, you're just making money off those animals. It's just for you. No, it's not.
No.
Because guess what? At the end of the day, he can sustain his own stuff on stuff that's not selling those animals. That's what it boils down to.
Yep.
It is going to be the people like me who dream about someday having a rhino viper, The people who are like me that like keep scrub pythons. Like I had people that wanted me to move to Florida, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't move to Florida now because Florida bans scrubs. I can't even get a permit for them if I wanted to. What am I supposed to do? And if we aren't having people stand up and go, hey, whoa, wait a second, why are we banned? What are we doing here?
Yep.
They are just going to steamroll us.
Yep.
Like literally steamroll us. And the people who are the big names in the game, they're going to be the least affected by this. So if they're standing up and saying something right now, and trust me, I'm watching who's saying stuff right now and who's not saying stuff right now. Those are the people who are going to be least affected. Is the people who have these large platforms, because they've already got the in. If they're standing up right now, it's for you, and you should stand up for yourself too. Yep,
it's very true. And one of the things that I'm seeing in the YouTube live chat here is having USARK booths at reptile shows. And here's the important thing to realize. Phil can't be everywhere at the same time. A lot of these reptile shows, there's a lot of shows that are still happening, and when the world is not in the chaos that it's in, there's even more that are happening. So you can certainly send an email out and be like, hey, I want to have a USARK booth having for people to come sign up. Are there things that you can send, flyers, brochures, whatever, so that we can have this at the show? That's one of the things that you can do. Talk to your show promoter, like, hey, do you guys have a USARK booth where people can learn about this stuff, and offer to volunteer at the booth, or be like, hey, can somebody be manning this? And it's important to also realize this. If you're doing that, or if you already have a USARK booth at your show, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a kind of dead booth, because there's no animals on it for the most part. It's usually just like shirts and flyers and brochures. People are probably just going to kind of want to walk past that. So if you're going to have a booth at that show to support USARK and to get the word about USARK, what are you going to do to get people to come to that booth? Because just it existing is not enough. That's unfortunately just what it is. You've got to find some way to be engaging to people, even if it's just your personality. If you've got a friend that you could drag to the reptile show because they're like a super energetic and personable person who's very willing to just grab somebody and be like, hey, what's going on?
And maybe if they're attractive.
Maybe so. But these are kind of things that we need to be thinking about, right? Because it again, we all have to bear this burden together. This is not just all on one person. It's not all on Phil. It's not all on Kevin. It's not all on this person. It's not all on that person. It's pretty evenly spread on all of us. And those of us who are, really working to be in the know and be aware so we can push this, it's our job to continue to push this, because we need people to know. The fact that we're pushing this and there's still a population of the industry that doesn't even know what USARK does or is, that's exactly why we're pushing it.
Yep.
So, to be, you can't shove this down people's throat. We're not trying to shove it down your throat. If you already know, congratulations. Now go be a disciple of USARK and get other people to join who might not know about it. Because as we just said, we're literally talking about, your neighbor down the street that owns one leopard gecko. They don't know about USARK. Chances are you should be going to tell that person. You know what I mean? There are very, very important things that we all can be doing. This is what we're doing now, what Nerd has done, what Kevin just did yesterday with Billy from Mutation Creation. This is what we can do, because we have the platforms, we have the direct contact, to get as much information as possible and push it. We need to be just working this from as many angles as possible. I am 100% for making sure that vendors are members of USARK. 100% on that.
I'll stand behind that until I die.
100%. I'm 100% for asking show promoters to be doing a little bit more, because they're seeing immediate income from table sales to admittance.
Attendees.
Like that is immediate. And, you should already be at the end of that, make an announcement at the end of the show. We just raised blah, blah, blah.
I'm actually going to talk to Bruce, and I'm going to see if I can make an announcement at the Manchester show.
It would be great.
Asking people to join. And then I really want to bring a iPad so people at our table will be able to join right at our table.
I was probably the most frustrated realizing at the Repticon in Asheville that, you'd think at the bare minimum, especially in North Carolina, we're just above South Carolina that just dealt with this Tegu ban that has gone to the next step, even with everybody's calls and emails and the petition and everything, they still pushed it to the next step, which is absurd. But even with that happening, there wasn't at least an announcement about USARK. Not even during the breaks. Because they do like 2-hour time slot and then like a half an hour where it's like everything gets like sanitized or whatever, they do their thing. There wasn't even an announcement during that break for the vendors. Hey, vendors, make sure you're checking to see if people are like members of USARK, or please talk about USARK when you're interfacing with customers. Nothing like that was even mentioned. The only things that were ever brought up were, you have 10 minutes before this block is over. Or please make sure you're wearing your mask. And that was it. And that was really frustrating. But I already talked about it on a previous live stream. And, Rob just brought up, Nerd is, we've got banners that have been printed about USARK. We've got business cards that are coming in with the mission statement and the links to everything. The stickers with the QR code to go right to the become a member page of USARK. And I'm going to be meeting tomorrow with our web designer so that we can get a banner right on the homepage about click here to join USARK today. They're fighting for our rights to keep these animals that we love, and it's going to get hyperlinked right to USARK's page. And at the checkout page, if you were purchasing an animal or a piece of merch from us or whatever, there'll be an option at checkout to donate $1. Donate $1 to USARK. If you use Ship Your Reptiles, it's an option at Ship Your Reptiles. Do you want to donate $1 to USARK? That is everything. That literally is everything. And these are minute things. These are little things that you can be doing. I'm seeing all the people that are like sharing people's posts about, I just became a member. Huge. Keep doing that. That's massive. That's massive. Kevin talked with Phil earlier today, and they're working on gathering the numbers for how many people have just recently joined. But Phil is like, it's been like since the time of the federal Python ban where we saw a surge of memberships like this. And that's huge. We need to keep that going.
Keep that energy.
We need to keep that going. Yeah. So I was talking with Emily the other day, and we were talking about the sticker things, and we were like, how do we get, how can we integrate this to get people like right to sign up? And I was like, let's get a QR code on that sticker and, we'll test it out, make sure it works, blah, blah, blah. And then boom, send them right to the membership page. Cause that's the best part. I mean, that's the best part about a sticker, because hopefully you're going to put that sticker somewhere or on something that maybe you carry with you all the time or whatever. And, you can just be talking to people about it. Oh, what the hell is that sticker on your bag or whatever? Oh, USARK is this organization that helps me keep the animals that I like, because we deal with a whole bunch of nonsense legislation proposed. You should check it out. Maybe you can become a member, or maybe if you got $1 or $5, like just donate $5. It would be a huge help to us.
Yep.
Like these little things are like amazing. So when it comes, I see a couple of people talking in the chat about local USARK chapters and stuff like that.
Florida has one.
Florida has one, and I think there are some other potential ones that are kind of happening. Here's the thing with that. The one thing to think about with that, it's already very difficult to keep track of everything that is going on, and USARK right now is our main entity. Florida has consistently been dealing with a lot of legislation and proposals over the years, so it makes sense that there's like an immediate target team there. They can report back to Phil, but there's like an immediate target team down there. having a whole bunch of little chapters that then have to, come back to the head sometimes can get a little crazy.
Yeah.
And we also want to be sure that the people, if there is going to be a chapter in your area, that those people are truly dedicated, invested people in the industry, whatever. So like I know with USARK Florida, Eugene Bissett and some other wonderful people are down there. If you don't know who Eugene is, you need to be doing some more research, because he is like a godfather of the industry. So like you got to make sure that things are kind of taken care of. As much as gung-ho excited people and motivated people are what we want to be kind of on the ground floor, we also need to be making sure that we've got like people who are very much aware of everything that is going on and well connected are kind of running through that. So it's just something to think about. I'm totally down with the idea. We just need to make sure that it is executed appropriately. And I know that that Phil and his team and Kevin and everybody that are involved in everything that's happening behind the scenes, they're working on it. Stickers and stuff that we're talking about from Nerd should be available soon. They've been shipped. We just got the notification. The stuff has been shipped.
FedEx has got 6 million backed packages right
Yeah.
now that they're sitting on. So it may take a little bit. Just keep your eyes peeled. We'll be posting them on the Instagram and our Facebook when they come in. So I would keep an eye on our social media for that.
Mhm.
I've been trying to repost everyone who has got a USARK membership. If you take a screenshot, tag New England Reptile in it, or tag me at Rob is Creeping It Real in the picture, I'll reshare them to whichever account you tag. So I've been trying to stay on top of that just to encourage people to post. That way, our account has got right now like 80,000 followers, 81,000 followers. My personal account has got like 7,000-ish followers.
Mine has 4,500.
I literally don't even think about it. I don't ever look at it. Like the only reason I looked at it today was because I realized that it just went past 7,000 recently, and I was like, oh, that's weird. And so I've been resharing those. If you tag me in it, I'll reshare them because I want to encourage people. I want to, give you that little boom, give you that little bit of boost, a little encouragement. If you join, take a screenshot, tag one of us in it. We'll reshare it to make sure that people get. And I want to shout out Billy from Mutation Creation. He's from Canada. He joined at the $1,000 level from Canada. He joined USARK. So if you're international, you can still join. It still makes a difference. And he's been reposting all the people that have been from him that have been joining and have been sending screenshots. And he's got well over 100 people that have joined. That's amazing. From his. And I'm just like so incredibly impressed. Justin Kabelka did the same thing. He's been reposting people who have joined USARK and tagged him in screenshots too. We're working on building a badge for your Facebook profile picture so that you can have I support USARK. Join the fight type thing on there. I really want to do one for Instagram too. We're also working on a couple other ones we can't talk about right now, but a couple other ones that are going to be important as well. We are trying to encourage people to join USARK. It is very important for everyone, not just the people who are in it, but also the people who keep reptiles and appreciate them on any of the various levels. Super important.
Yep, exactly. It really is. And I see, I'm just reading through the chat and see these things coming back up in the chat. So I think the important thing to remember when it comes to like there being a face of USARK, the important thing to remember is while there is maybe an aspect of this that might be true as far as like having a more intense presence available, what you have to really understand is two things. One, this blast of people that's coming to USARK right now is the biggest blast that they've seen in many years, right? The second thing to think about is this, especially with all the legislation that is happening now, it is impossible to unless they have somebody coming onto the team that is 100% dedicated to the social media, email marketing, whatever, it is impossible to deal with that and be doing the job that they need to be doing, which is communicating with these committee members and politicians and all that stuff. So it's also the third thing here important to remember that there are people already working behind the scenes Kevin is certainly one of them. He's literally been on the phone basically from the start of the day till the end of the day
with
different
Brewer
people.
and
Yeah,
Kabelka.
with Jay Brewer, Kabelka, Rodent Pro, and this person and that person, all dealing, talking about these kind of things. And there's stuff that's coming down the pipeline from USARK, and the good things that are coming down the pipeline. So we need to we just kind of need to be patient. There's a lot of stuff that is happening because, again, we're facing stuff that is we're facing these proposals that are coming at such an alarming rate. We have to be strategic. One of the most important things that we have to be aware of is, our biggest enemies, like all the anti-pet organizations and everything, when they send out their people to do their things, they're sending out clean cut, maybe in certain sneaky ways, attractive people to gain the wandering eye of somebody, whatever, but clean cut, well-spoken, well-maintained people to do what it is they need to do. So we can't be.
They're not sending me.
They're not sending. They're not
sending this.
Yeah. They might send me, maybe, but so we can't just attack things and be like, this is all this insanity. Blah, blah. We can't do that. We need to be really methodical. We need to be planned out. We need to be precise in what we're doing. And that is why USARK is so important, because that is our organization. That is that. They are the clean cut, organized, direct, face that represents us in those committee hearings. So things are happening, things are working. We can't talk about everything right now, partly because Kevin hasn't even told us.
That's true. That's true.
But there is stuff happening. So it is important to realize that, yes, we are aware of things, but we have to be patient on how this is happening. It is a work in progress. So in the meantime, what we're all doing right now as a community, from jumping on this live stream, hopefully you guys are going to share this video and share the podcast with everybody, because you should be doing that. You should be doing that anyway. But it's important to realize that what we're doing, as far as like making sure sharing posts, we're talking about things,
Go to USARK's page, like their post.
Exactly.
Maybe tag someone who lives in the state that they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So like these are the things that we can be doing right now while things are happening. Trust me, as soon as we're able to pull the trigger and get these things announced and talked to, it's happening. Like, we'll be going full steam ahead, and ain't nothing going to slow us down.
Yeah, on Thursday, I'm doing an interview with the Maine Herpetological Society to talk to their members and talk to people about the regulations and stuff that are going on. And it's just going to keep rolling. We're going to be doing more live streams on the New England Reptile Instagram and Facebook. So if you're not following those and you want to get more updates, please follow us on there. New England Reptile on Instagram, New England Reptile Distributors, or is it New England Reptile on Facebook? I don't know if they pulled the distributors off.
I don't know.
I think they pulled it off. I think it's just New England Reptile on there as well.
Yeah.
But it's very important. Even just USARK. I mean, especially USARK. Follow them. Sign up for their email list. Donate if you can. Please become a member. I mean, I get it. Some people are like, well, I want to donate more. You can become a member and then donate afterwards, or do it both at the same time. But please, please, please become a member. Make sure that you're counted and you're grouped in with us as keepers who are standing up to say, hey, I'm here. I'm watching what's going on, and I care about what's going on because these animals mean something to me. That is what 100%. We need to do as a community, as a group.
100%. And I want to bring this up just because here's a little fun fact. So Timothy Lesher just said, I've heard of Eugene since I was a little kid. Someone please get him on a podcast. So fun fact, the old Reptile Talk, when I was doing it with Steve Tillis, we actually had Eugene as a guest on the podcast.
You can't listen to those episodes.
Yeah, anymore, you can't listen to it though. But I actually am working on trying to get Eugene to do a podcast episode with us. It would be
great.
It would actually be wonderful.
He was very inspirational when we saw him last year.
Yeah, he's wonderful.
He was like just an incredible person to talk to, and like no matter if you talk to him for 1 minute or you talk to him for an hour, you're gonna learn so much. like so much. If you've got your ears open and your mind on, you'll learn something.
Yeah, 100%, 100% for sure. All right.
Wait,
I think
Jeremy.
Yeah.
What is going on? I don't want to end this on a negative.
No.
I don't want to end this on a negative note. Like I this has been a very heavy episode. I get it. I kind of went off a little bit, but I don't really want.
Wait, before you do it, I'm reading a comment that I want to make sure we don't neglect, just because I think it's a valid point, but I don't totally agree, but I'm just gonna bring it up. So okay, cool. I think USARK fighting for the right for big breeders to keep mailing their snakes isn't the same fight as keepers being able to keep their pets. I think the fight needs to be separate. No, it does not need to be separate. This is the thing.
This is all together.
There is no separation. Us being able to big breeders or breeders in general being able to ship their animals is literally a direct impact on people being able to keep their pets, because if we can't ship to you, how are you going to get that pet? It's not happening. There is no separation in this, because we're literally all together. The separation is the nonsense, because literally we're all, if you ask Rob, ask me, you ask Kevin, we breed reptiles, but we love these things.
Yeah.
They are our pets. So where the shipping thing, like the New York thing, is ridiculous. It absolutely is ridiculous. And I bring this up because it is that important, because that literally is the ultimate BS. Separating this is not helpful, because you go to a reptile show, you want to transport animals to Tinley Park. If this shit happens in Illinois, there is no Tinley.
That's it.
That's no, like that doesn't happen. And these people can't get a pet. It doesn't matter if it's coming from the breeder or from like so and so down the road who maybe has two ball pythons that they put together.
It doesn't matter. It affects everyone equally.
Exactly. So any thought process of separation, no. It absolutely is all the same. We are all in this battle together. There is no separation whatsoever. I understand if we're talking about how it gets framed, so it doesn't just look like, oh, the breeders are just trying to do this thing. I understand that. However, we need to realize that as a reptile community, there is the pet keeper and there is the big breeder and there is everything in between. That is all the reptile community. So and
people who just like seeing them in the wild, they're still part of our community.
Yeah, exactly. Realizing that the reptile community is massive. Bigger. It is massive. It goes far beyond the nerd, the BHB, the prehistoric pets. It goes far beyond the Jeremy, the Rob. It goes far beyond. It goes way beyond Rob.
Way beyond me.
It's mostly through the ears, but yeah. But oh gosh. But we really need to understand that it is literally all of our issue. So there is no separation. There is none of that. Breeders should be doing their part, because we're the ones interfacing and exposing people to these animals that may now want that pet. So we're directly interfacing this growth of the industry. We're all in it together. That's at the end of the day, that is what it is.
Agreed. And that's basically what it boils down to. The attention of newcomers and the attention of hoping that they get involved financially. I think that it's I honestly think that it's splitting hairs right now, because it's just as important as someone who's got one leopard gecko or one ball python. It's just as important that they are involved as, because guess what? When I get a membership, I'm counted as one. I'm not counted as 47 people. I'm counted as one. And when someone with one leopard, I've got 50, 60 snakes, something like that, a bunch of tarantulas and stuff, I'm still counted as one. And the person who's got one leopard gecko is counted as one.
Right.
So yes, it is important for big breeders to pull their weight, but those smaller people are just as affected as we are.
Exactly. And our getting the attention of newcomers, that literally is what we're doing right now.
Yep.
Like us trying to push this, having Barczyk do the video he did on all the different legislation that's coming down the pipeline and happening all over the country. Think about, Brian's audience really is the newer reptile keeper.
Yeah.
I know, there are people who've been keeping for a while. They might have a few animals that, they watch him, but like with his reach, the way the algorithms push his videos around and everything, he is exposed to the largest audience. Think about this. He is about 30,000 subscribers away from 3 million people that are subscribed to his channel. So even if only 150,000 people watch that video, that's still a huge number, and chances are there's going to be a large number of that. I don't know their exact numbers, but a huge number of those people that are watching that aren't subscribers that have been recommended the video in the sidebar, and they see one of his crazy thumbnails and they're like, oh my God, I should check this out. This guy's got some crazy looking eyeballs and a snake. Let me see what this is about. That reach is massive. And if you don't understand how the social media world works and like the value of a really ridiculous thumbnail and title, you just stop talking about that stuff. But anyway, what we're really talking about is like that reach. We're trying to do that every single time we release some kind of content. We're trying to reach the new person. When a vendor is at a reptile show, they're interfacing with, somebody who may only own one animal or maybe searching for their first animal. That's the newcomer. That's your chance to immediately interfaces with these new people, which is exactly what we're talking about. We're all one, but there can't be any thought process of how do we separate that, because it all trickles down from the big breeders to the boutique breeders, to the hobbyist keeper and breeder, to the novice, to the, the kid that's got the one leopard gecko. It all trickles down regardless. So any way that we can continue to spread that, we just have to do it. And that involves zero separation at all. So, okay, I think now we've ranted enough. So what were you going to ask?
Oh, no, I was going to say, I don't really want to end this on a negative note. I really wanted to end it on a positive note. So what's something that's got you excited in the reptile community right now?
I'm going to be selfish and say the fact that I have more carpet pythons actually going to produce eggs this year than I thought I was going to.
And you got a reticulated python that's about to lay eggs, right?
She is painfully making me wait. Painfully making me wait for those eggs. But yeah, I'm really stoked because this season is actually looking like it's going to be a little better than I thought it was going to be. Hey. So I'm actually quite excited about that. See some pretty cool baby carpet pythons. So
yeah,
I'm not going to ask you that question.
Yeah, I know,
because I don't like putting people on the spot. Like you just put me on the spot.
You had an answer.
I did have an answer, but I was able to think about it while I was going off for a second.
Oh, that's why you went off the second time, so you could think about my question.
Maybe so. Oh my gosh!
But wait, we need to tell people, if you have gained anything from listening to this, if you have learned something new, one little thing new,
yes,
please share this with somebody else. Share a link. Either through whatever podcast app you're listening to or through our website for the podcast. You can check us out on Instagram at reptile.talk on Instagram. You can check out Jeremy or me on Instagram. Please, please, please share this with someone who you think needs to hear this message, because it's not, I try and share this stuff around. I do my best. But there's so many more people that are out there that are listening than just me, and your voices need to be heard as well. I mean, you might not agree with everything I say, but even if they can find some way to disagree with me and shoot me a message and say, hey, maybe you were thinking wrong in this sort of way, I'm absolutely open to listening to what people have to say. I might still think that you're wrong, but I will absolutely listen to what you have to say. So please, please, please share this with somebody who may not have heard about the podcast before. If you can, please become a member of USARK. Their website is usark.org. So USARK.org. And then if you want to become a member, usark.org/membership. And you can join through there. They give you the options of tiered systems. You can make donations. Every little bit counts. Even if you just donate $1,
it still matters. It's part of a collective effort. 2
million to 6 million people in the United States that keep reptiles. If everyone donated $1, that would be huge. I don't expect to reach all those people, but we can still do our part to do. I re-upped my membership. My membership was good until May. I re-upped it anyway. I'm actually probably going to be jumping up to the next membership level because I feel like I'm not doing enough, even though I'm trying. I'm poor, damn it. But we really would appreciate it if you shared this. If you donated, if you can. I understand that not everyone can. If you can't donate any money, I totally understand right now. Go to the USARK Instagram page, USARK_official. Like their posts, save their posts, comment on them. It helps boost their Instagram algorithm to share it to more people. Send their posts to somebody. If you're on Facebook, go to the USARK page. Like things, comment things, tag people who are in the states where these issues are going on. Please do your part. We are trying our best to do our part. We believe that you can do your part too and really help us push this. It's going in a huge and a great direction already. Shout out to all those people, Billy, Jake, Justin Kivolka, Kevin, shout out to all the people who have been pushing this. We appreciate you. We're watching you. We're also seeing the people who are not out there doing their part as well. So please, please, please do your part. Check out, Reptile Talk at Reptile Talk thing. The thing. Yeah.
Reptile Talk.
Reptile.talk on Instagram. I'm done. I'm so done.
Tired.
I'm so
Rob's
done.
tired. With that, guys, we're calling it a night.
You.
All the links for everything that we're talking about and the handles for all the different accounts will be in the description of this video. They'll also be in the description of the podcast episode if you're just listening to the audio. And that is that, guys. This video will be, of course, saved on YouTube. You can check out the playlist that is forming of all the past Reptile Talk podcasts. And you can, of course, go listen to all of the episodes via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, or however you listen to your podcast, Spotify, all of that fun stuff. So go check it out. Go listen. Go give everybody a follow. Go support USARK and have a great rest of your day.
Take care, guys.